We all know that when it comes to solving homelessness, the end goal is always permanent housing. But what happens in the meantime? What about the months it can take to get there, especially when the weather turns and winter is closing in? Well, today we're going to do a deep dive into a really innovative pilot program that was designed to answer that exact question. It's called the Seasonal Veteran Stabilization Village. Let's get right into it. So here's our roadmap. We'll kick things off by really digging into the problem this program was built to solve, what we're calling the winter stabilization gap. Then we'll look at the temporary, very targeted solution it offers. After that, we're going to take a detailed virtual tour of the village itself, and then we'll walk through its entire seasonal life cycle from start to finish. And finally, we'll unpack how a program like this completely changes the way you think about what success really looks like. All right, so first things first, why is a program like this even necessary? This isn't about some massive failure of the entire system. It's about spotting a very specific and, frankly, a very dangerous gap in the process of getting our veterans off the streets and into a permanent home. And here it is. This is the fundamental challenge. Everybody agrees, 100%, that a real home is the only true solution to homelessness. The whole system is built around that goal, as it should be. But that process, finding an apartment, getting it inspected, sorting out all the paperwork, coordinating services, that stuff takes time. What feels like weeks can easily stretch into months. And in the middle of a harsh winter, that time isn't just an inconvenience. For an unsheltered veteran, it's a real threat to their survival. This slide really just lays that conflict bare. On one side, you've got this slow-moving, but totally necessary machine of the housing process. And on the other, you have the immediate life-and-death reality of winter on the streets. We're talking about serious exposure, frostbite, hypothermia. The medical risks go way up. But there's a sneakier danger here, too, and that's disengagement. Think about it. When you're just focused on staying warm and finding a safe place to sleep for one more night, it's almost impossible to keep appointments, track down documents, and stay connected with the very people who are trying to help you. People just fall through the cracks. So you're probably thinking, okay, but what about what we already have? Don't shelters and motels fill this gap? And it's a fair question, but each one has some serious limitations for this specific need. Congregate shelters, those big rooms with lots of beds, can be really triggering for veterans dealing with things like PTSD or trauma. They need privacy and security to feel safe enough to sleep. Plus, they're often full anyway. Motels, well, they offer privacy, but they are incredibly expensive and, this is a big one, they totally isolate a veteran from the support services and community at the VA. And of course, encampments, they don't offer safety or services or any real path forward. Something different was clearly needed. Okay, so that's the problem. Now let's pivot and talk about the solution. Once you really understand the specifics of this winter gap, you start to see why this pilot is designed the way it is, with such a specific and almost surgical limited scope. It isn't trying to be a one-size-fits-all solution. It's trying to do one critical thing for a very specific period of time. And the core idea is called seasonal bridge housing. That word bridge is just perfect, isn't it? Because it's not the destination. Its only job is to get you safely from one side, in this case, the dangers of winter on the street, to the other side, your permanent home. The key words to focus on here are temporary, non-permanent, and short-term. The program's biggest strength is actually the fact that it's designed to go away. Now, this slide is absolutely crucial because it draws some really clear lines in the sand. Let's look at what the program is. It's seasonal, only running from October to April. It's temporary and 100% removable. It's about stabilizing people, not just taking custody of them. It's a launch pad, not a warehouse. It's deeply integrated with all the other VA services, and it's governed by strict rules. Now, just as important is the is not list. This is not permanent housing. It is not a sanctioned homeless camp. It's a structured, supervised program. It's not a traditional congregate shelter. And it is not a standalone service. It only works because it's plugged into the bigger VA care system. Okay, so with that whole framework in mind, let's do it. Let's take a virtual tour of the actual pilot site. This is where all the theory gets real. I mean, how do you actually build a physical place that lives up to all these principles of being temporary, safe, and fully integrated? First, let's talk location and footprint. The village is built on existing VA property. That's a huge decision right there. It keeps residents close enough to get to their appointments and connects them to VA police, but it's still its own self-contained space. Notice the size, 114 by 40 feet. It's a really compact, defined area, and it's all set up on a parking lot that was already there. And this next part is fundamental. No digging, no concrete, no permanent foundations. That's not just a small detail. It's the whole point of its temporary design.
The courtyard layout is also super intentional. It creates a small, manageable community space.
So the village is made up of 3 main building blocks. First, you've got 16 sleeping units. The magic words here are private, lockable, and climate controlled. For a veteran who's been through trauma, the dignity and the psychological safety of just being able to lock your own door, you can't put a price on that. It's the difference between constant anxiety and actually getting some rest. Second, there's the day room. This is the heart of the village. It's the single way in and out, it's where staff are 24/7, and it's the community hub. And third, the hygiene hub. This is a brilliant self-contained trailer on wheels that has showers, restrooms, and laundry. All the basic dignities you need to feel human and get ready for housing interviews.
Safety and security are obviously a huge priority here. This is not some open campus. There is one and only one controlled way to get in and out, and that's through the staffed day room. The staff don't just crack the door open. They use a video doorbell to see who's there, they verify who they are, and then they buzz them in electronically. This creates a really secure bubble, which finally allows residents to let their guard down and actually focus on getting stable instead of just surviving.
And that single, controlled entry point, that's just one piece of a much bigger safety plan. The whole site is wrapped in perimeter fencing. There are cameras watching the entry points and the outdoor common areas, but importantly, not inside anyone's private space. The staff have panic buttons they can use. There's another emergency gate that's controlled by keycard access. And all of this is built on a close working relationship with the VA police, who are the primary first responders for the site. It's all about creating these layers of security.
So how does a veteran actually get a spot in the village? Well, it's a really deliberate, multi-step process. It all starts with outreach and referrals from the VA's own homeless programs team. These are the folks who already know the veterans and what they need. Next, the nonprofit partner who runs the site does an intake and pre-screening. Then comes a critical step. Every single applicant goes through a background check to ensure community safety. But the final and most important step is that the VA has the last word. Nobody gets in without the VA's explicit sign-off. This makes sure that the placement is clinically the right move and fits into that veteran's long-term plan. This program is so much more than just a place to sleep. It's an active workshop for change. The site is staffed 24/7 by a team that includes a program manager, case managers, and, this is huge, peer support staff. These are other veterans who've been there, who get it, and who can connect with residents on a whole different level. The programming isn't clinical, it's intensely practical. We're talking life skills like budgeting, job prep, and what it means to be a good tenant. And here's the key. While you might not have to go to every single class, you do have to be actively working on your personal housing plan with your case manager. That's non-negotiable. It constantly reinforces that this is a temporary stop with a very clear destination. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, but I'm always curious about the nuts and bolts. How do you handle the really practical stuff like food and electricity and sanitation in a way that actually sticks to that core principle of being temporary? This table breaks down the solutions, and they're pretty clever. For food, there's no on-site cooking. This immediately cuts down on fire and sanitation risks. Instead, the nonprofit gives residents meal cards to use at the main VA cafeteria. This solves the food problem, but it also encourages a daily routine and gets residents comfortable on the broader VA campus. For power, they just run a temporary metered service pole. No digging, no permanent wiring. It's simple to set up, simple to take down, and they can track every bit of electricity used. And for hygiene, that towable trailer has its own waste storage tanks that are serviced by a professional company on a regular schedule. It completely avoids the need to touch any permanent plumbing. Every single one of these choices reinforces the temporary, non-invasive nature of this whole project. And that brings us to the program's life cycle. One of the biggest fears with any temporary project is that it'll slowly become permanent. Well, this program's designed from the very beginning to prevent that, with a clear start, a middle, and a definite end every single year. This timeline really tells the whole story. The work actually starts in the summer with outreach. September is all about that intense screening and approval process. Then, in early October, the physical site is literally assembled and residents start moving in. The village is then in full swing all through the toughest winter months, from October to April. And then you see that final, critical date, May 1st. By that day, the entire site has to be gone. The cabins are removed, the power is shut off, and the parking lot is power washed and returned to exactly how it was before. This annual cycle is the ultimate proof that the program is truly 100% seasonal. So after all that, how do we actually know if it's working? For a program this unique, you can't just count how many beds are full on a given night. That's not the point. You have to measure what it actually aims to do. And the answer might surprise you. It's a really important question to ask, isn't it? If the main goal isn't just to give someone a warm bed for the night, then what is the goal? What does a win actually look like for a seasonal,
bridge housing program like this one?
And here's the answer. The big takeaway is that success is not measured by occupancy rates. A full village isn't the goal. Instead, success is all about 4 key outcomes. First, engagement. Now that residents are safe and stable, are they actually re-engaging with their VA doctors and their housing specialists? Second, transitions. Are veterans successfully moving out of the village and into permanent housing? That's the ultimate mission. Third, safety. Did the program literally save people from the harm of winter exposure? And finally, execution. Did the operators keep their promise? Did they tear everything down completely on time? That last one is a huge measure of trust and accountability.
And that leaves us with this final, really powerful question to think about. We've just spent all this time doing a deep dive into one specific pilot, for one specific group, during one specific season. But the model itself, this idea of a temporary, targeted, and integrated solution that's designed to bridge a specific gap in a bigger, more permanent system, it really makes you wonder, could this same approach be used to solve other tough, short-term challenges in our wider systems of care? It's a fascinating thought to end on.